Hey everyone, you're watching Kingsdown Ferrets here. We're going to run through this week's updates and we're going to answer a few more of your questions. Remember, if you've got any questions you want answering, pop them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them in the next episode. So let's get started. This week we've got some lodgers staying with us. 2 of the kits are from our previous litter, from the cereal kits. We have Misha and Chaos, who was Cheerio and Cornflake. And we have Noodle, who's unrelated. Elsewhere in the Ferretry, Jelly continues to be a bit of a pain as she's going through her teenage phase, sniping at people and getting into few fights and scuffles. Aren't you, Jelly? Well, she's looking a bit sleepy at the moment. And Bourneville, he's her main adversary at the moment. He's partially in season. He gets a little bit annoyed by especially her junior antics, and every now and then he gets a little bit excited by the girls who are in season as they pass. So yeah, he's still having a mix of aggression and hormones running through his body. Hey boy. Oh yeah, look how aggressive he is. Yeah. Thank you, Bourneville. Another bit of news this week is that poor Mushroom here got a sore eye from something. She might have got bitten in the fight or got some dust from running around. So her eye was a little bit sore, but
this one here looking slightly redder compared to the good one on this side.
we're all back to good now. We treated her with some chamomile tea, heat compress, and she seems to be back to normal, which is good. So another development this week is that Bourneville here is starting to lose his coat at quite a rate of knots. Now that's why he's not as dark and glossy as he usually is, because his lovely darker outer guard hairs are all falling out. So he is on his way to putting on his summer coat, which will be eventually a much shorter, shiny, very dark summer coat. He'll lose a lot of his white banding on his face and become a lot darker there too. You're the first. He's the first to try and move into his summer coat this year. Other than that, all's been relatively good in the Ferretry this week. So let's have a quick catch up on how the pregnant ferrets are getting along. As last time, we have Binky here, and we have Mushroom, and we have Cookie. Each of which, they're all around 3 weeks in, about halfway into their pregnancy, so 3 weeks left. See how it's going. We measure their weight every day, and they're on a good weight gain track, as you can see from this chart here. In the past week, you can see that we've made good weight gains, especially Mushroom. She's going for gold, and hopefully she's got a good, sizable, healthy litter in there. Binky is a little bit slower in her weight gain, but she was last year, and she is a semi-Angora, and they do tend to have smaller litters. You can see, for example, Mushroom and Binky here are looking a little bit podgy around their tummies. Cookie's a few days behind, so she's not looking as podgy. You can start to see on Binky, because she's smaller and lighter, so you can start to see that her teats are coming through, which is a good sign of progress. Are you going somewhere? Where are you going? The same as going through with Mushroom. Just about see them coming through. I think because of Mushroom's larger weight gain, she's feeling way more sluggish than the others, so she's becoming much more sleepy as we go through the weeks, and that'll just continue. Much less exercise and much more tiredness. At this stage, it might even be possible to palpate the babies. If you're brave enough, you can have a feel around and start to feel the formation of lumps, but it's a little bit early for me, and I don't like to mess around too much with their tummies. So that's it for the pregnancy update. So let's move on to a few of your questions. Victoria Schmeck asked, theoretically, how many litters per year can ferrets have? Now, ferrets can only have litters, of course, when they come into season, and they start to come into season in January, and they go out of season in midsummer. And it takes a good while for them to get pregnant, to have the babies and to raise them, and they can only have another litter after that if they come back into season. Sometimes our ferrets come back into season after they've had a litter, in which case we don't breed them again, of course, but we use a gill jab or a neutering technique. But if they were, in theory, to come back into season, then they could have a second litter. It's highly unlikely that they could have enough time to have 3 consecutive litters. So in the wild, there's a good chance that they would have either just 1 or 2 litters per year. Tommy Price asked, when's the best time to breed females when she's in season? How many days into it? When a ferret shows its first signs of coming into season, it'll usually take a week or so for them to come into full season. And then after that, we usually leave it about a week or 10 days until they're at their peak fertility. If you attempt to breed them before, it might not be successful. And in any event, they might reject the male, and it will just become a fight in the pairing process. The next question asks, what happens if you remove the hormone implants? Well, they're not really removable. I guess technically you could make an incision surgically and pull out the implant, and in that case there is no implant releasing hormones, and the ferret would come back into season the next time around. But in practice, the hormone implant is left there forever. It's a permanent thing. Warren Wandsworth asks, I've been told a gill can die if not mated when she's in heat through infection. There's slightly more to it, but yes, they can get quite ill. And what happens is, when a ferret comes into season, they get an extreme boost of estrogen, and estrogen suppresses bone marrow function, which reduces blood cell count. And this can cause a number of complications, not just the risk of infection. Check out the link above for a video on the full details on how being in season can impact a gill. Kira Fawkes asks, are there any good books with plenty of information on ferrets which you might recommend? There's a book called Ferrets for Dummies, pictured on screen now. It has a great mix of information on ferret health and husbandry. Of course, if you want a book full of cute pictures of baby ferrets, then do check out our Kingsdown Kits book, which is on sale now, link in the description below, and product tags also in this video. And Electronic Sheep asks, what is your protocol for when one of them gets ill? Well, there's no one solid protocol. We assess the ferret in terms of why we think they're ill. We don't necessarily go straight to isolation, but that may be necessary at some point. We often put them into isolation, not necessarily for cross-contamination, but to make sure that we can confirm how much they are eating and how they are pooping. Well, that's it for this week's video. If you do have any other questions, do pop them in the comments below, and we'll aim to cover them in next week's video. But until then, see you later.